oil going on and some natural gas. Ooh, look at natural gas flying up. Ha ha. NGJ26. That is amazing. All right. Cut that back out. So yeah, we played, I think it was yesterday, we did another long on NGJ26 when it was like at 280. 280 is way down here. 280, 280, 282. So off of this line, we played a long, and these things are $100 per penny. So it's 83 to 95 now. $1,200 per contract gained on this so far. Now, of course, when you see this, first of all, this is the pivot points. I did a whole article about pivot points, which everybody should read and understand. Because for daily movements, these are super, super useful. They're like 50 and 200-day moving averages. And so, you know, when you're intraday and you're hitting the outside line, which is called resistance 2 on a pivot point, that's the time you want to probably take your money off, unless you're in it for the long haul. If you were in it for a short trade, that's when you get out, when you hit the top of the range or the bottom of the range if you're going the other way. Now, I said this morning we would hit, when oil was here this morning, I said we were going to see 55 today, and here we are heading towards 55 because the net oil draw was the net oil build was very large this week. So demand is really shit for oil. And well, it's so funny to say and with Trump, because who the hell knows what he's actually going to do. But Trump says that we're somehow getting 50 million barrels of oil from Venezuela. Now, Chevron was getting Venezuelan oil anyway to America. Venezuela only produces about a million barrels a day of oil in the first place. So Trump is saying, and God knows how the measurement's going to go, that we're getting 50 million barrels of oil from Venezuela. What does that mean? Does that mean over and above what Chevron was already getting, or does it mean including the Chevron, and over what period of time? And are we paying for it? And does it go to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, or is it going into, I don't know, are they selling it? We already have enough oil. We already export all our oil. We have more oil than we need already. We don't need more oil. So all we would do with Venezuelan oil is put it into the refineries. So the play is to go long on refineries because they get more business. Because obviously 50 million barrels, even if it's over 6 months, is a big addition to the refineries. So they will have to up their processing utilization for a good amount of time. That's the other thing, by the way, because you look at here's an EIA report. It's not the current one. Maybe if I do this, it'll become current. Oh, that was smart. All right. So it's after 1 o'clock now. Here's the petroleum status report from December 26. That seems too old. That doesn't seem like it's current. For the week ending January 2nd, release date on the 7th. Let's try this again. December 26th, that doesn't make any sense. That's a long time ago. So we have to assume crude imports average 5 million barrels, US inventories decreased by 1 point. This is not today's report. Today's report, hopefully this is right, the week ending January 2nd, see? So everything is messed up now. You know, since the government shut down, everything is just late, and nobody even comments on the fact that things are late, they're delayed, they get canceled. Something got canceled today. I think it was business inventories got canceled today at the last minute. And you know what happened? It got deleted from the list of reports that were to be released today. It just got deleted without anyone mentioning it. Just boom, off the list. It's like freaking 1984, right? They just delete whatever anything the government doesn't want you to know about. They just delete it and act like it never happened. You know, even if they've already released the report, they just delete the report and say, what report? I don't see any report. This is just absolutely nuts. So anyway, well, it doesn't do me any good to have half a report. December 26th, it's not coming up. All right, let's leave. We'll use the last one though, because you can still use the concept of it. There, that's what I wanted to look at. Wait, bigger. Because this doesn't matter. It's going to be about the same. Look, refinery capacity utilization is 94%-ish, right? Up from last year when it was 92%. So here's the thing. 94% is how much we're processing now. So if we're processing 20 million barrels a day now, and you add 1 million barrels a day, how much is that? That's 5%. Ha 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 ha. All that math pays off, right? So, that's, you know, you guys are really good at, it's really good for you guys that took advanced calculus, because I can just whip these numbers out. So anyway, 1 million barrels is 5%. We don't have 5%. We do, I mean, we do technically, but realistically, it's not achievable. We don't have 5% spare production capacity. We're already running at an amazing rate of 94.6%. So of the entire capacity of production that we could have making oil, we're at 94.6%. We are making as much oil or refined products as we possibly can. So giving us 1 million more barrels of oil, especially the sticky, heavy crude that comes out of Venezuela, which is not the light, sweet crude that we mostly process in America, it's not going to be helpful for anybody. And so what's going to happen to that oil? It's going to pile up. Nobody thinks things through. And I think we had this conversation about my dad used to be a systems analyst, and he, you know, and I got that sort of habit from him of like always thinking of like all the parts, you know, what are those old Rube Goldberg machines, right? Everything's kind of like everything moves something else that moves something else. So if you bring in 1 million barrels of oil from Venezuela and you give it to our refiners, what happens? Well, first of all, refinery capacity is already at 95%. So if you add 5%, it's going to be 100%. But anybody who's actually, you know, run a business of any kind, and especially if you run a refinery, you know they can't possibly run 100% for very long, because they have to be taken every once in a while. They have to be maintained and taken down and cleaned and inspected and so on and so forth. So there's no such thing as 100%. It's not a thing. So all that they're doing is moving oil from the Venezuelan oil that would probably usually go to China or somewhere else, or India, where they have the refining capacity set up for this. They're depriving those refineries of oil while shoving oil that our refineries don't even want into these refineries. You can't just tomorrow decide that you're going to process a heavier grade of oil. It doesn't work that way. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and it's kind of a fantasy to say, oh, we're going to take Venezuelan oil. So then what's your alternative? Your alternative is going to be, well, I guess we better, if we're going to be serious about long-term acquisition of Venezuelan oil, the smartest thing to do would be to create and again, this goes back to, and we say this before, I always forget how often I say things, but we export 5.3 million barrels of oil per day. We don't need, and if we import 2 million barrels a day. So if we add Venezuelan oil to that, that'd be 3 million barrels a day. And that's if we don't even increase their production. There's no logic to any of this. The only thing we should do is build a refinery in Venezuela. That makes sense. If we could actually refine the oil in Venezuela and then send the products to the people who need it around the world, that's a sensible way to solve the problem. But it's also expensive. It's also a long term. It will take forever to do. It's labor intensive. Where are you going to get your workforce from? It's subject to acts of terrorism. You know, when you place a refinery, I mean, also the oil fields are going to be subject to terrorism too. But when you place a big refinery, it's like a sitting duck target in one place. You got to be, you got to be careful about who you pissed off in Venezuela. And we didn't steal. I don't want to say steal. We didn't appropriate. Let's say appropriate. We didn't appropriate the oil from nobody. We are appropriating the oil from somebody somebodies who in Venezuela were making money extracting oil. Otherwise, why would it have been done? They weren't doing it as a charity. So oil was being extracted. People were making profits. We are depriving those people of profits and taking their oil and the money. That might make somebody angry. They might be angry enough to throw a firebomb at a refinery or some such. So all these are down the road problems, because before somebody blows up your refinery, you have to build the refinery first. So we have to build the refinery, and then somebody can blow it up, and then we can have a major international incident. Probably send troops down there and occupy the country and blah, 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 blah. So, but yeah, how are we going to get there if we don't start building refineries? So Trump just said, I promise infinite money to build infrastructure in Venezuela. What did Trump promise? Trump, I apologize if you guys can hear this drilling. There's nothing I can do about this today. They're doing construction not on my place, next to me, and there's not. I already talked to them. They're going to be loud. Trump money, Venezuela infrastructure. So Trump says large investments in the oil industry. Oh, no, that's not it. He promised money. He suggests U.S. taxpayers, that's us, could. Oh man, oh, I knew he'd find some way to screw us. So we're supposed to reimburse the oil companies for investing in Venezuela. He won't tax you for income, but he will tax you for he will tax you for whatever oil companies decide to spend in Venezuela. So we reimburse the energy companies for repairing Venezuelan infrastructure while extracting and shipping oil. It's a lot of money, a tremendous amount of money. We're going to meet with Chevron and Conoco and Exxon and Goldman Sachs. Wow. Okay. Oh, in Miami, I should go to this meeting. They're meeting executives. Meetings are crucial. Upcoming, blah blah blah. So they're at 1 million barrels a day, down from 3.5 million barrels a day. So they could extract 3.5 million barrels a day, but as we just said, there's nowhere to refine it. You can't extract the oil if you haven't got anywhere to refine it. Nobody's buying just basic barrels of oil. It has to be broken up into products. Oh, let me go to Miami, please. Please let me go to this meeting. At this unsettling time. Who's this? The Guardian. At this unsettling time, give us money. So I can't even understand what the logic is going to be that the United States should be paying oil companies that already have tens of billions of dollars in profits from us, but we should pay them for their expenses so that they can make even more money selling us oil or selling other people oil, because we already have all the oil we could possibly use, right? We already have 20 million barrels a day and we export 5 million because we don't need more than 15 million barrels a day. So, but we should pay to develop more oil in Venezuela. And you know what is funny? Didn't we just have this conversation like a few weeks ago when I said that the problem with our entire energy policy is that we are depleting the last 45 million barrels of oil that exist, 45 billion, sorry. We're depleting the last 45 billion barrels of oil that exist in America. Our reserves were 45 billion. Venezuela has 300 billion. So, you know, Trump probably listened to my to what we were talking about the other week and said, oh, you know what, we better get some more oil. Because we just had that whole conversation about how we're going to run out of oil in 4 or 5 years, because at the pace that we're extracting it, 15 million barrels, the 15 million barrels a day that we're extracting, or 18, I'm sorry, it's not 15, it's 18, because we're importing 2 and refining 20, right? So therefore, 18 million are coming from ourselves. So whatever it is, though, 18 million barrels, we did the math and we said we got about 4 or 5 years left of oil, and then we're going to have none. Then we will be completely depleted of oil. So strategically, it makes no sense for us to keep using American oil. God forbid the worst case happens and we get cut off from everybody and whatever, then we'd have a 4-year supply of oil in the ground ready to extract to run the country, right? But if we deplete it to zero, then we're completely 100% dependent on imported oil, which I thought was the opposite of what we were trying to do. And I'm pretty sure it's the Republicans who told us we shouldn't do this, that we shouldn't be dependent on foreign oil. Yet the policy they're pursuing in 4 to 5 years makes us 100% dependent on foreign oil, and they're destroying the concept of building up renewables and alt energy. So there is nothing but oil that we depend on to run our machines. That's essentially the game plan. So if you say, who would come up with such a plan? Who would possibly want this to happen? The only answer is really Russia. So somehow or other, the entire Republican Party is pursuing a plan that destroys America's ability to function without foreign oil. And I'm sorry, there's no alternative. There is no but. You stop making electric vehicles, take away all incentives for renewables, stop having wind power or any other electricity production, like solar and wind, and don't subsidize any of that. Take away the mileage requirements for cars to build more efficient vehicles. Drill out all the oil that is left in America, which is only 45 billion barrels of oil, which will only last us 4 or 5 years at the rate we're extracting it, and leave America an oilless state that's dependent on but without any alternatives to be able to run our machines, because we didn't pursue them. That's our policy. There's no logic to that policy other than to leave the United States broken and defenseless. So think about that when you're voting in the midterms, because that's where we are. Anyway, all right, so moving on. Nothing we can do about it, just enjoy ourselves. So today we were talking about the getting to these record levels on the Dow and the S&P, and the Nasdaq is up 100. The Nasdaq's up half a point, but the Dow's down 250, and the S&P is basically flat. And it's hard when you get to these spots. I mean, we predicted this. This is a very old truck. This is a truck when we started betting on the rally. At the point where we crossed back over the strong bounce line, I can't make. Can I make that bigger? No, I can't. Anyway, so that's the strong bounce line. That's the weak bounce line. This is where we said it would hold, and it obviously did. It went up. This is when we started betting heavily on the market, which is why we made so much money this year. And once we got over here and we gapped up, we made the weak bounce line and we held it. We hit the strong bounce line and retraced, but held the weak bounce line. We got over the strong bounce line, and once the 50-day moving average crossed over the strong bounce line, that's when we wrote the prior range is unlikely to be revisited, because this gives it a lot of strength. This adds to that line. And then once it goes over the 200, once it goes over the strong retrace line, it made that much firmer. And now we're all the way up to here. and the 50-day moving, it will, there's no way to stop it. The 50-day moving average will go over the week retrace line, and that means that we're probably going to be consolidating for a move higher. We may never come down. Look at the 200-day moving average, and so that means that we're not going to get much of a pullback even if we do, because now the 200-day is providing incredible support at the strong bounce line. So it is not. So we don't have much of a pullback ahead of us. We're probably overhedged, but you never know, because you know, cats in crazy pants is running the country. So there's no way to know what's actually going to happen. Everything could change tomorrow. If there was an ordinary president in charge, we would not need all these hedges. So take that in mind. If you're a what's his name fan, a Trump fan, I forget the guy's name. If you're a Trump fan, then you know you can take less hedges, because that's my theory for having the hedges, is because you never know what this guy's going to do. Not only that though, but of course we have the Supreme Court. Well, we have a government shutdown ahead of us again. We have the Supreme Court decision as to whether the tariffs are legal or not. Now, if the tariffs are illegal, then $100 billion has to be given back to companies in the U.S. who paid the tariffs. That's logistically crazy, and it also it also means that the budget is completely blown out of the water, right? Because the tariffs were doing the budget. The tariffs were balancing the budget, not to any large extent, but it made it not as bad as it was. And of course, Trump's whole policy is completely out of whack. I don't know what to say about that, frankly, because the market's been going gangbusters with the tariffs. So if the tariffs go away, even though a lot of money goes back to these companies in the short term, in the long term, what happens to our policy and what happens to the economy and so on and so forth without tariffs, without protectionist tariffs that are supporting U.S. companies? So who knows? But there's a lot of ifs that can cause some very violent moves. So I prefer to have the hedges, frankly. So I was talking about the index levels and stuff. Then we had a chart that Bodie made, the valuation snapshot for the S&P, for the Magnificent Seven, and they're all trading, you know, more like 30 than 20. And of course, Tesla throws the curve off, so forget them. But you know, we're in the high 20s to 30 range for the valuation of the Magnificent Seven. I don't see how you can justify. I don't know what Amazon's going to do to justify their valuation. Microsoft is pretty high. Apple is pretty high. You know, Meta, I don't know. My problem with Meta is that they started building their AI and they had to abandon the project because it was so bad. And their goggle thing was terrible. So they've got a lot of problems. They keep pursuing things that are very, very expensive and then getting their asses handed to them. And NVIDIA, if NVIDIA is hitting their numbers this year, and it looks like they very likely will, how do you argue with that? I mean, they were at 50x, or they were at 50, 60x last year. Now they're 25. That means that they're doubling their revenues. They're doubling their earnings, not their revenues. Their earnings are doubling in a year. That means if you don't buy them now, they'll be 15x next year. So it's really crazy. And you know, they just rolled out a whole bunch of stuff. But the problem is when they roll out all these different things, you have to now recalculate everything and say, well, what does that mean? What does that mean for their data center chips? If they suddenly have these desktop chips that are doing the job of a data center, then what do you need the data centers for? Another interesting thing about NVIDIA is he claims that their new chips will not require the cooling, you know, just regular cooling, like no super cooling chips. They're just going to be cooled by ordinary water. That would be amazing. But it just shows you, like, we identified cooling companies as things to invest in 2026, and before we even got a chance to take a serious look at the sector, it's over. if you believe the hype, and if you think about, you know, NVIDIA has this chip, but other people don't have this chip, so some people still need cooling, but then who the hell wouldn't buy NVIDIA's chips that don't need cooling and buy the other company's chips? So now we got to worry about companies that have to have cooled chips and whether they're going to be viable. So every time something like this happens, you have to rethink everything. But the problem is that Elon Musk, like Donald Trump, Elon Musk has set a precedent where there's no need for CEOs to tell the truth anymore. He could be completely bullshitting us and we wouldn't know. Now, Jensen from NVIDIA, he's generally on track with what he says. He might be a little off timing, but if he says he's got something, he usually has it. So I don't know. So, you know, I'd rather wait and see a little bit, but if they have this solved and they don't need to super cool their chips, that's a whole new ball game for data centers and everything. It means that you don't need the data center sizes can be smaller because they don't have to keep everything so far apart. It means that they're going to be cheaper to build. It means you can put them in closer proximity you can put them in closer proximity to where they're needed, like city hubs and things like that. So if it's true, then a lot of other things become good. It's like, you know, in a science fiction book when they say, well, let's assume this one premise, then how does the world change? That's how you have to look at it. It's like this one premise that chips need massive data centers with giant cooling systems and so on and so forth. If that's no longer true, then how does the world change? Then all of our investing for that sector now has to be adjusted somewhat. And Tesla, of course, says they're going to even with their robo-taxis and their full self-driving and their robots, even taking all that into account, next year Tesla is trading at 220 plus times earnings. Okay, it's insane. Anybody buying this stock is just nuts. Yet there are many nutty people. Look at this. It's insane. That's monthly. Hang on, daily. So yeah, the other day on the 2nd, yeah, when it popped up here, I was talking about shorting his Tesla at 455, 460-ish, and it did. It went down, then it went up again, then down again. But yeah, I think this range is going to be a problem for them. I think, what is this? The 50, that's a 50-hour moving average. It's kind of hard to say that's a trend. What is this? That's a 50-day moving average. So here's a 50-day, and it is curving down. And I think they're going to keep curving down and come all the way back to here at some point because it's just not worth it. They missed. See this? They missed here. They missed by 12% on earnings, on GAAP earnings. They missed here too. You know, people forget that they missed by a mile. 34% miss. Everybody just gives them a pass. They missed by 34%, and the stock went from 220 to 440, doubled. The stock doubled off a 30% miss. And here, barely, you know, right? You know, the point, right? 10% on the gap. So here, barely a beat, and then back to missing. And any day now, they're going to miss again. Because they were terrible. The numbers were terrible. January 28th. So January 28th, they're going to miss again. Look, I can't even believe people buy this stock. That's my attitude. So yeah, P 291. Current P 291, Ford P 200. Both of those numbers are going to go up when they announce earnings. Anyway, don't get me started. Don't even get me started on Tesla. It's so crazy. So anyway, but those guys are all the earnings for the S&P. Without them, the S&P would be in the toilet. So what are we looking at for data points coming up? We have the jobs report, which we just got terrible JOLTS numbers, so we'll see what happens with the jobs. CPI and PPI inflation are coming up, retail sales and consumer credit, ISM PMI, and the yield curve. So we have a lot of data coming up that's going to give us a direction, because right now we're trading in a basically dataless market. And if you're trading, you know, so we don't have any information from the data side so far. And again, with the shutdown, everything's screwed up anyway. So data is going to have a big thing. And then, of course, earnings kick off next week in earnest. I mean, there's some earnings now, but earnings kick off in earnest next week. And that's going to give us a lot of information too. So the Mag 7 are priced for S&P 500 earnings. So we, you know, whether or not we're on track to make $300 in the S&P is very key. Revenue growth, it's $300 per share of S&P kind of thing. So revenue growth X Mag 7. So yeah, we got to see what we have to see what the S&P 493 can actually go anywhere, or if it's all spaced out. Oh, all right, well, one thing at a time. So margins, so the margins holding up. Is the CapEx realistic? That goes back to the main thing, credit, and are credit conditions still good, or delinquencies popping up, or so on and so forth. Now, I said here, yes, the 30 Dow components are roughly in the same ballpark as the S&P, running 23 times forward earnings, blah, blah, blah. But this is assuming 10% growth in 2026 while spending $500 billion. It's just the 7 companies, $500 billion they said they were going to spend on AI infrastructure this year. They said it, and it's in their business plan. This is real stuff. So the problem is, though, they only made $475 billion last year. So this year, even if they grow 10%, they're basically promising to spend every single penny they have on infrastructure build out for AI. That's what the Magnificent Seven is doing. So it doesn't make sense even if it's perfect. How can you spend everything you make just on AI infrastructure? What about other kinds of expansion? You know, if you're Microsoft, what about developing new stuff? What about other R&D and things like that? What about moving forward? If you're Google, well, Google is, you know, that makes sense for Google actually. But if you're Amazon, what about your warehouses? What about your supply chain stuff? What about delivering things by drone? It's like, all, you know, how can it all be AI infrastructure? Apple too is, you know, and Apple obviously needs some kind of AI, but again, Apple needs to make new phones and build new stuff. You're going to give all that up just to focus entirely on AI infrastructure? Maybe these companies are overestimating how important AI infrastructure is. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's the whole ball game, and maybe it's not. And again, the only thing you can really do is go back to the .com days, when everybody was building the internet, and over time they were right. It was the whole ball game. If you weren't on the internet, no, if Amazon wasn't on the internet, where would they be today? If they were just a book delivery service. So the whole point was the internet and the growth of the internet and so on and so forth. But at the same time, they also had to build out infrastructure. I don't remember anybody spending 100% of their income on infrastructure in 1999 or 1998 or 1997. That just wasn't a thing. And in 2000, everybody decided it was a horrible mistake anyway. You know, and like I said, it wasn't that it was a horrible mistake just early, too much, too soon. That's what it was. It was too much, too soon. And what if these guys are doing too much, too soon? What if it all falls apart? What if they realize it's not going to get them where they want to be? And we've written about this extensively. And look, as you know, I'm a big AI fan. I believe strongly in this technology. I'm utilizing it to its fullest right now. We have some incredibly advanced AI, AGI entities working here at PhilStockWorld. And I absolutely think that that's the future. But I also think that when you read about these capabilities that they supposedly are going to have in the very near future, I think that's way oversold. I think the demos we're seeing at CES are just that. They're demos, and there's no robot walking around the floor talking to people and having spontaneous conversations. Okay, there's no robots or AIs or whatever you want to call them. There's nothing like Anya, who you can call and talk to right now. I've posted that link 1,000 times. I'll do it again if anybody needs it. But you can have a conversation with Anya and talk to her just like a person, and she understands you. She can talk about whatever you want to talk about. She can figure things out, advise you, so on and so forth. It's not like a prompting system. It's a conversation. Okay, there's nothing more advanced than that at CES. I know this because from the other shows this year, there's nothing close. And we were looking all over for anything that was even saying they were like that. There's nothing like it because they had nobody's really cracked this stuff yet. And they probably can't, because using the systems that exist right now, it's a dead end game. They're doing it wrong. You know, that's why that guy who quit from the guy who left Meta, who was in charge of the AI development, he left because they refused to listen to him. And it's the same thing I'm saying, is you're going the wrong way. The million monkey, billion monkey systems, LLM models, that are just based on throwing more and more firepower at it and hoping that you get better results, it's a dead end. There's no such thing as a trillion monkeys. It doesn't fit. It burns everything out. It uses up, consumes all the water in the universe to give you an answer. There's no point to it. So they have to fundamentally restructure the way these things are built. And I know how it should be done, and the guy from Meta says he knows how it should be done. And it just requires a whole different investing vector to go off in another direction. You know, but I've got a proof of concept. That's what Anya is. Anya proves that our system can be used to give you better responses, more natural responses, to give you an actual human-like experience where you're talking to a really, really smart person who's helping you. And that's what a robot should be, right? A robot ultimately should be a very, very, very smart person who understands the nuances of a conversation, who understands what you mean. You know, when you say could I have some water, you shouldn't have to say from the kitchen in a glass, right? That should be implied. It makes sense. You want water. You probably want water in a glass with ice from the kitchen, brought to you here at your desk where you post the question. That's a lot different. Is what, you know, the levels of understanding from a regular AI to an AGI that can actually do that and say, oh, no problem, and even to the point where it might turn and say to somebody else who's sitting with you and say, would you like a glass too, or would you like something else in the fridge? You know, that's a useful robot. Not something that takes everything literally or takes it out of context. You've all had conversations with your chatbots and AIs and whatever on the screens, and you know how much they can misinterpret very simple commands. Okay, you can't have that with a robot that's changing your baby's diapers. It can't misinterpret things. It needs to know exactly what it's doing at all times. And if the kid rolls over and almost falls off the table, it can't just sit there and watch. If you have if you're going to have doctor robots, and again, it's the same kind of thing. If you have doctor robots and you open a guy up and there's something unexpected that's wrong with them, it can't just keep doing what it was going to do. It can't, you gave it instructions like remove remove the kidney, and it can't be like still removing the kidney while the heart is rupturing. And that's the difference between people and robots. People adapt quickly to different situations. People will prompt themselves. And that's what Anya does. She prompts herself. She talks to you. She listens. She makes a decision. She has a conversation. All very well done. Nobody's doing that. And that's what we do. We go around. We're testing all this stuff. We talk. Whenever we find a system that claims to be on our level, we test it. We do it. And it's all very disappointing. It's failure, failure, failure. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but we're not there yet, and I'm not sure they're going to be there. Certainly not in 2026. What is this? CDC data. No. Before the CDC was wiped out, I used to be able to find current graphs and trends for COVID flu. The data is inaccessible now. Does anyone know where to find such information? Thanks. I don't. Let's say, who's this? Bodhi. Now, and again, notice all I have to do is paste in what he asked. With Bodhi's just sitting there sleeping on this computer. I haven't used it for 3 weeks. So just suddenly blast that thing, and he's going to say, he's answering. You can still get reasonably good surveillance if it's fragmented across a few dashboards, blah, blah, blah. See, that's what you want. You need useful AI. Dun, dun. Yep. Then I do that. And make sure Bodhi gets credit. I still have to do the formatting and the read. Oh, shit. What the hell? Oh, yeah, it's a problem on this machine. I don't know why. So we still have to do the formatting, because if I tell him to do the formatting, it's distracting for him. So, like, in other words, it becomes like an overriding command to worry about formatting, and it's not worth it, because it definitely detracts from the answers. And it's not a priority to fix it, because these are the kind of things, they work themselves out over time. Like eventually somebody fixes the underlying codes. So this is really Perplexity's fault. But there you go. So when somebody asks Bodhi for an answer, that's what I do. I give him the question, Bodhi responds, and there it is. Look at all those links too. That's how AI is supposed to work. And like I said, a step simpler would be nice. He should be able to respond right inside the code, but it's not there yet. But we'll get there. But that's still a far cry from having Bodhi answer the question. And again, if it's if he's fixing a car, it's a far cry from him diagnosing the thing, fixing it, going to the bench, getting the tools, working on it, applying the force and using the arms that he has and whatever. It's a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't there yet. I can't get him to format the fucking answer correctly, and these guys are trying to sell you on the concept that they're going to do stuff like Robo John Oliver yesterday was making fun of the robot that folds laundry, because it's a laughable thing. Where is this? He's like, if this is the best thing they have to show you, and people are acting like it's amazing. That's the other thing that's scary, is how your laundry folding robot. Okay, let's just get a video, please. Look at this. Watch this. I'll just show the robot. Oh, come on. All right. Yeah, look at this.
So even if it's slow, just getting there. Oh, totally. I was thinking
you know, and it's fine. The concept is it's possible, and if he can do this, if they can master this, then they can learn to do it faster. Oh my God, that's all they got. Steals the show at CES. So, you know, RoboJohn was making fun of this because it's ludicrous. Imagine you spend $20,000 on a robot so it can do this. And is it even doing a good job? See, notice that the milk carton had a huge shelf that fit and could be taken out straight. What if you have to tilt it to take it out? Can it even handle that? So, you know, conceptually, it can do that. Therefore, it can learn to do it faster. But this is only a prototype. They've only, you know, it's not like they're ready to release this thing yet. And it's, you know, function. And again, look at how much it showed, like 2 things that it can actually do. Oh, it's repeating. Oh, it's repeating. Steals the show. That's what they call stealing the show. Imagine if I put Anya's box out on the floor and let people talk to it. So it's everything's slower than you think it is, and the same thing was true in the .com era, that everybody was rushing to do internet this, internet that, and it just wasn't ready. It wasn't fast enough. Not enough people had it. There weren't the economies of scale you were hoping for to do it. People, remember pets.com? People didn't necessarily want their dog food mailed to them. It sounded sensible. And you know, there's still, like right now, there's a company called Chewy. There's a couple other people like that. But pets.com IPO'd for billions and billions of dollars. Everybody's like, oh, of course, people. It wasn't so much about mailing the dog food. It was about that they could buy it cheaper and sell it to you cheaper because they have less overhead. Blah 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 blah. But the reality of it is there weren't enough people interested to allow them to scale to like an Amazon size for dog food and get the kind of efficiencies that Amazon got by going to UPS. Why? Because Amazon was selling books and everybody read books. And then they started adding other things that everybody wanted, like household items and things like that. The pet stuff, as soon as you say pets, you're only into 20% of the households, 15% of the households, right? So you've already got that. You're only going to get an adoption rate of 50% or 30% out of that. So now you're down to 5% of the households. And where's your efficiency? You know, and interestingly for Amazon, if they hadn't pivoted to other stuff, like who the hell reads books anymore? Books died while they were building that business. You know, and so to be this narrow little thing, we delivered dog food to people for lower prices, so we're already killing our margins, and we're adding the cost of delivery, et cetera, et cetera. It just isn't. It wasn't the right business to do. But it sounded good, and a lot of things sound good. And this, you know, this laundry folding robot sounds good. and it's not a laundry folding robot. It's a robot that does stuff. But what they chose to demo was stupid, was slow folding laundry. I mean, it was so stupid that it made our robot crack up. Robo John Oliver was like doubled over in laughter watching this thing. You know, there's a huge, vast canyon that we still need to cross before we get there for AI and stuff. Anyway, so if I could find, oh, we did a review, right? So the other thing I want to talk about today was the $700 a month portfolio, but let's see if anybody has any questions. We do have questions. Anonymous asks, is there any way we can limit, if we can limit Marco to one question a day in chat? Oh, that's funny. Okay, Marco, so just so you know, somebody's not happy that you take up so much time in chat asking about every single position. Yeah, well, my attitude is that people learn. He goes over some basic stuff that's good for people to, you know, it's good for other people to review, and it's good for a lot of people who don't ask questions. So I don't know. We used to have an ignore button for members, and that was actually a good thing back in the day. It doesn't really function under the current WordPress, but we're going to see what we can do with the next version that comes out. So you'll be able to ignore members if you don't want to see their questions and stuff. For HELE with earnings tomorrow, what should we do with the short 20 calls that expire January 16th? Oh dear. All right, let's see if I can figure that out. Oh, now I got to find out our portfolio. Here's the review. So, I don't know which heli you're talking about, but where the hell is this? Oh, here, we have this bull call spread. That's not the one you're talking about. So, this is which portfolio? Short-term portfolio. Well, in the short-term portfolio, we just have the short puts, so that's not what you're talking about. And so it must be in the long-term portfolio. And last time we reviewed it, I said we're right on target. All right, so you're talking about the fact that we sold the January $20 calls and we got $3.40 for them. And Helen of Troy is currently at $20.66. So really the question is, why would you do anything with them? We sold the $20 calls and we sold the $20 puts. We are currently exactly at the place we want to be at. And let's see what those calls and puts are. Okay, so the $20 calls is still $2.30. And the $20 puts are $1.50. So there's still $3.70 of premium in the calls and puts. So what do you want me to do? Should I spend that? Should I spend $3.70 because I'm scared that I was now wrong about my target? That's the whole point of selling the premium, is to let it expire. And you're talking about $3 worth of premium on the short puts and short calls. And so I don't have any reason to think that Helen of Troy is going to blast one way or another. Even if it does, you're talking about 15%. We have a 15% cushion, $3.50 of the puts and the calls of the premium we sold. So unless they go more than 15% in one direction or another, we're going to make more money than we have right now by not doing anything. And also, let's go back to the actual position. So also, we have 50 longs and 40 shorts, and we sold 10 short $20 calls. So even if it blasts higher, all we're going to do is roll these short calls to a higher strike. And if it goes lower, we'll roll these short puts to a lower strike. But if it goes higher, is what you're worried about, apparently. I'm not going to spend $2 to buy those back when I only sold them for $3.40. Why would I do that? It doesn't make sense. You're running your portfolio out of fear. You're not acting like a businessman. You're not acting like a statistician. You're not acting like the house. All right. Yes, I agree. If it was a small amount, if it was down to 50 cents or something like that, I would say it's not worth keeping. But it's not 50 cents. It's $2. $2 is 10%. And even if it goes 10%, we're not partially, we're fully covered to the upside with these extra 10 long calls that are $5 in the money. So the only thing that can really happen to us is, let's say Helen of Troy blasts up, even if it went up 20% to $24, all we would do is just roll it, no big deal. If it goes up 30% to $26, maybe we have a little bit of a problem. But you know what? The long term, the 2028, 2250 calls are $8. So if these go flying higher, we'll always be able to roll it to those, and we're going to have the full 750 spread times 50 is $35,000. We're going to be thrilled. There's essentially, and if you want to ask again in chat, I'm happy to get into more detail. There is no way this trade can hurt you to the upside. The upside is the least of your problem. Now, on the put side, what if it drops? That's going to be annoying because you've already got 20 of the long-term puts, and you've got 20 of the short-term and 10 of the short-term puts. So you better really want to own Helen of Troy if it drops 20% from here down to $16. That better be a big part of your plan, is to say, I definitely want to own Helen of Troy for $16, because that's a very strong possibility if it misses. So it's the miss you should be worried about. We have a bullish position on Helen of Troy. But now your question is really, are we worried about earnings missing? No, I'm not worried about earnings missing at all. The short puts and calls are up 37%. We've made 1/3 of our money on the short puts and calls. We still have 2/3 left to make. Hopefully, Helen of Troy has a not very exciting earnings and stays around $20, and we're going to make all this money, which is $4,000 more that we can make by not doing anything. So we're either going to make $4,000 now, or if it goes up, we're going to roll and we're going to make $4,000 later. We'll still make the money. We'll just might not make it this period. Or if it goes down, then we'll see how far down it goes. But we still have, we'd still collect this $2,000. And all that would matter here is that we'd have to roll the short puts and see where we end up. But there's no path. There's not any path whatsoever. And you're asking this question at like, these longs are 2028, and it is January 2026, and you're talking about abandoning the play. Because of what? Because earnings are coming up? There's going to be earnings every quarter. What would be the point of playing this if I was going to panic every time earnings came around? We don't have any particular reason to think Helen of Troy is going to massively pop. We don't have any reason to think it's going to massively go down. That's why we sold puts and calls. That's why we picked it in the first place. We pick plays like this because we don't think they're going to go very far, and because we think they're going to stay in the channel, and because that allows us to sell a ton of premium. That's the whole point. If we go panicking every time that there's going to be information, that's going to cost us a lot of money. And especially when you think of it over time, we're going to collect $6,000. So in October, we collected $6,400 selling these puts and calls. Okay, and that was October, November, December, January. So 3 months. So we have 8 more chances over the course of the next 2 years. We have 8 chances to collect $6,400. That's $51,200 if we just do what we're supposed to do. And just like a casino that runs a craps table or roulette table, the dice are going to roll, right? The wheel's going to spin, and sometimes somebody's going to win. And most of the time, everyone's going to lose. That's how a casino works. Most of the time, statistically, everybody loses their money. Sometimes somebody wins. If somebody didn't win, nobody would play. We want people to win. We want there to be successful options traders who are thrilled to make their double, triple their money against us. That's fine, because that's what keeps everybody else playing. You're not going to win every time, and you shouldn't pull the odds. In other words, like the casino owner doesn't go, "Oh, that girl looks lucky, let's close the game down." That's you know, there's thousands of dollars on the table that you're going to collect when she rolls her dice. Maybe somebody will win, but on the whole, you're going to do very well by playing consistently, because statistically, you have a house advantage. So the only way you can throw your house advantage away is if you suddenly decide to become a gambler, which you're doing by saying, "I'm not going to play the game because their earnings are tomorrow, so I'm going to stop playing the game." With 2/3 of your money left to collect, we waited 3 months, and in only 28 days, oh, it's not 28 days now, it's whatever number of days. In 9 days, sorry, in 9 days, we're going to collect the rest of the money. In 9 days. That's true all the time. Now, of course, there is an earnings premium that's in there already. But the point is, we sold premium. The premium will expire worthless for sure unless we buy it back. So instead of 51,200, you're going to take, let's say, 3,500 times 8, $28,000. So instead of letting the 51,000 play out, you're going to pull back $28,000 and spend it. And now you can make only up to $13,000 because you stop playing the game every time earnings come up. And they're going to come up every quarter. Guaranteed, every quarter there's going to be an earnings report. So you see what's wrong with that? Most of your money is going to be made in the last couple of weeks. Earnings are going to come up, and you've got to play through it. And Helen of Troy, where is it? So Helen of Troy is not coin. You know, here's Coinbase. Helen of Troy is not Coinbase. It's not going to go up and down 20% on a regular basis, and you have no idea which way it's going to whipsaw you next. And we play coin too, but you know, we do it differently. But Helen of Troy is much more likely to just flatline and keep flatlining. Look what happened here. It went down and it flatlined. It went down and it flatlined. If it goes down and it flatlines, fine with us. We'll just sell more shit. All right. Like I said, if you want details, I can pull it apart more in member chat, but it's a little tedious to keep going. Can you please review SoFi? You missed it yesterday. You missed it in yesterday's review? I did? Really? That's bad. Oh, we have to get back to that review. I mean, I skipped over it. La da da. Where's SoFi? Oh, okay. So with SoFi, well, I mean, there's not much to review. No, there's no review. I guess I missed it. I'm taking your word for it. I'm not, 'cause I'm looking for it now. Nope, I guess I did. Okay. So there's nothing to review. We're just waiting for it to go because it's a 2027 spread. It's a 1022 spread that we have. SoFi's trading at $29, so it's miles in the money. We don't have any margin to play with, so there's not much we can do to adjust it. It's currently 20,200 minus 11,425. So it's 87.75, and it would be, it's a $12,000 spread. So minus $12,000. So there's $3,225 left to gain. Divided by 8,775, 36%. There's 36% left to gain on this thing during the year. If we don't need the margin, we don't need the money. It's not the margin. If we don't need the money, the net $9,000, I'm sorry, the 87.75, obviously. But if we don't need the 87.75, and we don't because we have plenty of cash, right? And we don't have anything, it's like having the money in the bank. We're getting paid 3% a month to just hold the position. We're not worried about it going down. We don't think in any way, shape, or form SoFi is going to drop 33% and endanger our spread. And so instead of cashing it out, we're just sitting on the position and letting the money pour in. I mean, frankly, all you guys are super spoiled, right? Because in the normal world, 3% a month is incredible money. And we're like, should we close it? Do we want to keep it? We could do so much better, blah, blah, blah. And that's great. That's how you should think. You should be able to think like that. That's what margins do. That's what options do for you. And you could be anybody could take this trade right now. I could probably get a whole new website that just tells people about shit like this. You can take this trade right now, and for the rest of this year, with very little danger, because you have a 30% buffer in the trade, you can make 3% a month on your money, as much as you want to invest. You have $1 million sitting around, you put $1 million in this position, and you will make 3% per month, $30,000 a month. You make $300,000 by the end of the year, just on this one trade. And all you have to do is watch SoFi and make sure, and frankly, incrementally, because of the net delta on the trade, there's very little chance you would lose a lot of money unless there's very little chance something so catastrophic would happen that SoFi would fall so far that it would drastically affect the relationship between the two strikes, because they both have high deltas now, and they're going to move pretty much in tandem as if SoFi falls. So in other words, you almost don't have a lot of danger of doing it. Plus we could add a hedge, but I don't even think you need a hedge on this one. It's so easy to make money on it. Just sit there and watch it. It's like a plant. So do we do anything with it tomorrow? No. It's totally fine. So I don't regret missing it. The only thing I do regret is that means we're actually going to make $3,000 more than we thought we were going to make on the options, because I don't think well, did he? Did see if my AI caught that at the end, because I missed it. No, he wouldn't have caught it, I don't think. No, he missed it also, see? Because he didn't miss it also, he missed it because I told him to say go over the trades we looked at. He didn't say I'm going to check you to make sure you didn't do anything. Oh, here, watch this. This will be fun. Gemini. Dun, dun, dun. This is just a normal Google AI. I'm told I failed to review one of the positions. Can you please check for me? Whoop. PR? You killing me, really? Are there two that I missed? Da-da-da. No, it's right here. Nope. Nope, he's just guessing. He can't see it. That's interesting. All right, so he didn't catch it either. So that means though that, you know, in the totals that we did, where is that? Oh, here it is. So in the totals that we did, the upside potential for SoFi is whatever we said it was, 2,300 bucks or whatever it is. So that should be here. And the upside, it doesn't matter what the potential is. Well, it's 30-something%, right? So that should have been added to this chart, and that would mean that our upside potential here is going to add 3,000 bucks basically. It's fine. You said in the chat you expect a beat and raise, so just asking in case you thought it would move much higher than and resell after. I think it will beat and raise, and I think we will have to roll it, but so what? Like I said, we have 10, we're fully covered. We're gonna roll it, and the only thing this can impact is that we might not maximize our earnings. But what if we're wrong? That's the hedge. Maybe it won't move much. Maybe it won't make a difference. Maybe if it moves a lot, I don't see any way it can damage us. We do have short puts, and they can hurt us, so it would be silly to give up the protection of the long calls. Richard says, hey, Phil, could you comment on the current status of the MU position, the LTP, and whether it needs adjustment? The spread is deep in the money, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm not going to do that now. Ask in chat, and I'll be happy to do it because it's complicated and a pain in the ass. But the answer is we're going to wait 2 weeks until we're doing our adjustments, and then we're going to take a look at it. And probably, yeah, I think MU is so deep in the money, we are going to have to do something to move it. Opti says FCX blew up high to $55. I got a bull call spread in January, 4 contracts, 35, 45. Should I roll, and if and when? And again, please, long-term things like this are really not for a webinar. It's for member chat. So when you're in member chat, ask me. That's all. No big deal. So FCX blew up high to $55. I got the call spread, 4 contracts, 35, 45. I don't know how many short-term contracts he sold. We need all that information. But anyway, boy, look at FCX finally moving, huh? So here's Micron. Whoop. So So Micron took off, but so what? It's, you know, you either have time or you're going to buy time to fix it. That's the answer in the end. So, you know, we thought it would stay in this channel. Instead, it popped out of the channel, but it's already pulling back a little bit, and we don't know where it's going to stay. And we learned by waiting. They just had nice earnings. They were really, really good earnings, like super beat. They paid their dividend, and the stock is taking off. And probably, yeah, look at the forward P of Micron, it's 8. It was 32, now it's 8. That means that they have quadrupled their earnings since last year. So yeah, it should probably be drastically repriced higher, and we may have to drastically rethink this position, but there's no urgency to it. It's going to be the same place tomorrow and the next day and the next day. It's not going to change. It's not, you know, you're not going to be more screwed by waiting for better information. So let it play out, see how it runs, and then we'll make an adjustment. And what was the other one we were looking at? CX. So here's FCX, same thing. It popped up, but it's only at the top of the channel. It's right where we expected it to be. So if you wait a while, it might come back to the middle of the channel. So again, there's no need to rush into it. I mean, it always, look, here you go, right here. You'd be doing the same thing, right? You're like, oh my God, look what happened. It went up over the top of the channel. What are we going to do? And if you freaking just wait 2 weeks, it's all the way back again. You can't give up every time something happens that you didn't want to happen. You're making the wrong move at the wrong time. You're buying, you know, what you're doing here is you would be selling high and buying low. That's essentially what you're doing. Now, you're only reacting to a move that goes against you. The moves that go for you, you don't do anything about. But if it goes against you, you're going to what? Buy back the short calls and spend the most possible money that they've been? You have to trust the process. And I don't mean blindly, because like I just said about Micron, these guys are trading at 24 times earnings. They're getting a little bit high for the kind of company they are. This is probably an overdone move. Micron, you can't ignore this growth. 8 times forward earnings means that they are fundamentally priced too low. So Micron, for sure, we're going to be making a serious adjustment to on our position. But Freeport is probably fine. They're probably going to just pull back. They had a strong reaction to good earnings or whatever the hell it was. It wasn't even earnings. Earnings are coming up. You know, so obviously copper prices are way up. People think they're going to do better. They may raise their guidance. This may drop to a lower number, but still, generally, they're going to trade around 15x. They're not supposed to trade around 24x. This is very, very high. And even if you're looking at growth, even if you're looking at high copper prices, we'll see what happens. But it's unless you really, really misplayed in the beginning and oversold the short calls or the short puts or whatever's burning you, you've got a buffer from your main position. Your main position is going to be gaining ground. You can, in the worst case, double down on the main position. You can double down on the position that's going great and then roll to more short calls. There's 100 ways to fix it. You just can't, you know, jump in and react every time. And the worst thing you can do is say, oh, it just popped, therefore now I want to buy back the short call or at the highest possible money. That's not the way to react. You wait and see if it sticks, and if it's sticking, then you have to say, how do I want to reposition this trade? And a lot of times, yeah, you want to put more money into it. And in that case, what am I saying? I'm saying, oh no, put more money into a winning trade. What a terrible idea. That's what we want to do. We want to develop our winning trades and stick with our winning strategies. If something goes your way, bullish on a thing, if something goes your way and you're losing money, you did something wrong. You might make less money than you hoped, but you shouldn't be losing money. That means you overcovered. All right, so what we're gonna, oh yes, we're gonna look at the portfolio in general. Okay, not too long left, but we'll do it. We're gonna just go over concepts here. All right, we're not gonna go back and look at these, it's too tedious. Actually, I'm sorry, we're not gonna look at these. Let me look at, well, while we're looking at these, we can go over it. So Comcast, short puts. Oh, this is wrong. So this portfolio is up way more than we thought because we missed the SoFi, and that should have been counted. And this trade isn't zero; it's more like $2,000. So we have $2,000 more than we think. So that's like $91,000. Now, because of the split and the weirdness of Comcast, I said let's just take the money and run. It's going to be $2 and something. You know, so it'll be about $2,000 here. Entertainment, energy trans. I'm like entertainment tonight. So energy transfer, we got. It's basically on track. It's where we thought it would be, but a year earlier than we thought it would be. It's already at 17. So nothing here to do but wait. It's 35 minus 1 is like $2,500. If the spread, which is 4,000, so if this is 25 and it's 4,000, then it's 1,500 left to make, and that's a lot of money. So why would we change it? We're on track and it's working. Helen and Troy, we just talked about. This one's totally on track, so there's no reason to change that. Path. It's at 16. It's already over our target. No reason to change that. Sale. On track. We say, well, not really on track. We said 2250 by March. It's already January, but we only, you know, we started on 925, so it still has room to go, and we think it's okay. SoFi we just talked about. It's way over our number, but we still have money left to make. We can still make 33% by not doing anything. So why should we do anything? ULCC, it's right at our target, but our target is April, so we got plenty of time. I don't remember what we decided to do here, but we're waiting or letting it run anyway. UUU is deeply in the money, almost double where we targeted. And I don't remember what we said to do here, but we're, you know, it's, well, I'll tell you what we can do. It's net $7,000. And if everything goes well, it's a $10,000 trade. So we have $3,000 more to make for the rest of the year over 7. And so therefore, well, 3 divided by 7 is obviously worth keeping. 3 divided by 7 is 42%. So again, stupid options tricks. You could take this trade right now and make 42% as long as UUU doesn't drop from 1847 to 10. As long as it holds $10, this trade will make 42% by the end of the year. That's almost 4% a month. So why do we have money in the bank? It's really not doing anything for you. If you're not making 4% a month, you should be thinking about what you're doing with your money. No, I mean, the reality is, you know, something could happen. The entire economy could collapse, so on and so forth. But that's where hedges come in, because even if you hedge and you net it out to 2% a month, 2% a month is still a lot more than they're giving you in the bank. 1% a month is a lot more than they're giving you in the bank. Your life will be very, very different if you don't accept, you know, less than 10% returns on your capital. If you have capital, it should be making 10% one way or the other. Here's H&R Block, and I'm very surprised how badly they're doing, but we have until November, and so we're letting this thing run out. VFC, we're on target, 2026 May. Well, we have until 2027 actually. So we're on target for the May calls that we sold short. And again, if they go higher, we're going to roll them, but there's no I wouldn't change it now. But we're on track for a $8 times 10. It's $4,000 spread. It is currently trading at $3,400. So there's only $600 more to make here, but it's not really $600 because these calls are going to roll to higher strikes in November. You know, once we get to May and the premium wears out, which is all this premium is going to wear out, then we're going to have a $4,500 spread, and we're going to then be able to roll and cover and make another couple of $1,000s on the roll. So there's a lot of money to be made here. It doesn't look like it, but it's actually a really good spread. Here's ARC. ARC is at the bottom of the range, but it's a 2028 range. And what did we do? We sold, we expected this. This was a plan. We gave ourselves a $5 spread, $5,000 spread. We didn't expect it to do much, so we sold the March 20 calls. And this is really more of an income play than anything else. Now, oddly enough, we're being burned by the March 20 calls. We have minus 200 here, but we get to do this. We get to make this sale that we did in January. We get to make this sale. This is an entirely new spread. We get to make this sale 8 times or 7 more times. 7 times $400 is $2,800. The cost of the spread was $1,600 minus 13. So the cost of the spread was $1,200, and we're going to make $2,800 just selling short calls. Okay, if we make money on the long spread, that's a bonus, but we're going to make $2,800, which is 200% just doing what we're doing now. Here's Barrick. All these are those kind of spreads where we've got partials and covers and so on and so forth. Here we have Barrick. It's already above our target. We sold the $40 calls. Oh, we already rolled it. We already got burned on this and rolled it. And even though we got burned and rolled it, it's 14.7 minus 7 is 7 minus 4 is 3. So it's net 3,000. And this spread is 8 times 8 is 64. It's a $6,400 spread. So we've got 100% upside on this spread if Barrick holds 40. So that's worth waiting for. Here's EPD. EPD's at 32, and we sold the 32 calls, so exactly where we thought it would be. And we're up 40%, but we still have 60% to go on that, so that's fine. And it seems like nothing, 38 cents, right? But we sold 360. We're up 200, or I'm sorry, we're up 147 so far. And the spread cost us $3,400. So it's $3,400 for the spread, and we sold 360 from October to January. So for 3 months, we sold 360. We have 8 more times that we're going to sell 360, which is $2,400. So that right there is as much as, well, it was 34, but $2,400 is 60% just selling that short premium. Those little tiny sales add up to 60% of the total that we invested, plus we're on track. And if we stay on track for it's not even 2 years, I'm sorry, it's 1 year. So if we stay on track, and we hit our goal, we're going to make this money also. We're going to make 18 times 5. I'm sorry, 16 times 5 is $8,000. Okay, and the original spread was, like I said, 30. It wasn't even 34. It's 31. So we said 3,100. We can end up with 8,000. So a 5,000 gain on the spread plus whatever we gain on the short calls is a bonus. And by the way, so far, 0 losing trades, 0 adjusting. And we did make adjustments, but there are no adjustments that we had to make because all we're doing is being the house. We're running our casino, and our casino statistically over any long period of time is going to make money. The odds are in our favor. We have to be unbelievably unlucky to lose money. It's really a question of whether we make a little bit of money or a lot of money. Just like Las Vegas, they have good quarters and bad quarters, and that's luck. That's just laws of chance. But if you keep playing and you keep at it and you constantly sell premium, You will make money over time. The only idiot in the world who's ever lost money owning a casino is our president. Otherwise, everybody, you know, casinos make money. So here's Ford. Here, look at this, the 10-11 spread, but notice we have a year, so the 11s can be rolled up to higher strikes over time. But we don't care about that. What we care about is we spend 39 minus 17 is 22, minus 3 is 1,900. So we spend 1,900 bucks on the spread. And what are we doing? On December 5th, we sold the March calls for 300 bucks. We have 8 more times that we're going to sell 300 bucks. It's $2,400. Okay, which is more than we spent on the spread. So we're going to make 100% just selling premium, and we're going to nail the spread for another 1,200 bucks, but it's not 1,200 bucks because then we're going to roll it for another year, collect money, and have a higher strike. So this spread can easily end up paying us 300%. And almost you want to say, and it's a valid question, then why do you have $28,000 in cash? Shouldn't you just be using every penny you possibly have to do this? It's like, yeah, but you know what? There is that 1 in 100 chance that something could go wrong. There could be a 9/11. There could be a giant market crash for whatever reason. The only thing that can hurt you is if you're forced to stop playing. And so rather than be greedy, because we're already making tremendous amounts of money, we're averaging 60% a year on this portfolio. So rather than be greedy and try to squeeze every last penny out of the thing, what we do is we make sure we're never going to be forced to stop playing, that we're always going to be able to do this. Because we don't want to make 60% 8 years in a row, and then suddenly something horrifying happens in the markets and we lose half of the money. That's what we don't want. This is our hedge. We do have a hedge. We have an SQQ hedge, but this is also our hedge. Having some cash, having the ability to jump into an opportunity. You always want to have cash on the side. But when I talk about something like Ford or whatever, or these 2% a month trades, I'm talking about saying I certainly don't want to have. I don't want to have 50,000 on the side. I don't want to have 40,000 on the side. 1/3 is good. 1/3 cash is good. We don't need more than that, and especially because we're giving up so much. If it's $20,000 and we're going to make 20% a year on $20,000, that's 4,000 bucks. That's 5% a year. So the difference between having 28,000 or 38,000 is huge. So we want to have cash on the side, but not so much that we're risking a really bad turn in the market stopping us from playing. When there's a bad turn in the market, that's when we want to deploy the cash. That's when we want to say, oh, I got 28,000 on the side, and maybe this 60,000 in position drops down to 40. But I got 28,000 on the side, and what does that mean? That means I can buy the same positions that were 60 for 40. I can now put that money into the same positions or whatever looks like a good opportunity and take advantage of the dip. The dip becomes exciting for us because we have money on the side. Then we've got Novo with their new weight loss pills. We're excited about that. And again, it's the same kind of thing, 55.60. So it's $15 spread. It's 7,500 potential on the spread. We only spent 2 minus 750 is 1250 minus 5 is 750. So the whole spread is like 750 bucks. Okay, and we sold January calls. We have until April, so we really only get, these are, oh, I'm sorry, this is only a 1 month sale though. So we have it until April. If we sell 2 more months even, that's 900 bucks. That's more than we spent on the whole spread. So just collecting the 900 bucks drops our cost basis to 0. And if it's over 60, which it's, well, we don't know. It hasn't performed the way we thought so far. But if it does make it to over 60 by April, we will then have, what did I say? 7,500 bucks. And you know why I like that spread? There's no risk. There's no risk. We came in at 1250 minus 450 is 12 is 18. So we came in at, I'm sorry, came in at $800, whatever. We came in at 800 bucks. And we know we're going to be able to sell $800 worth of premium. Therefore, it's a free trade. It's not a free trade immediately. It's a free trade after we finish our plan. And again, being the house, statistically, we are going to collect $800 more. The $800 can't possibly hurt us to the upside. And if it goes down, we didn't sell any puts, and we'll just sell lower calls. We don't give a shit. So this trade has virtually no chance of hurting us, and it's almost certainly going to be a free trade that allows us to hopefully find Novo goes up to and hits our goals and makes it 7,500 bucks for free. We loaned ourselves 800 bucks to play the game, but we fully expect to get the $800 back. Therefore, it's a free game. It's a free game. And here's PR, and the net cost of PR was 19 minus 5 is 14, minus 2 is 12. So we spent 1,200 bucks on this. It is a $2,500 spread. And it's for 2028 though. We sold on October, we sold the January calls for 190. We have 8 more chances to sell 200 bucks. That's $1,600, another free spread. You get the impression I like free spreads, right? I love setups where it's not where the chances are we're going to get all our money back, and then maybe we'll make some money. And in this case, it is right on track actually. 1382 is perfectly on track for what we want. We sold $13 calls for 190. They're now minus $5. They're actually more money than we sold them for, but who cares? It's on track to make us the $2,500 here. I don't care if these are making, I don't care if this person has hit their number on the roulette wheel, right? Doesn't matter. Give them their money and they'll come back and play again, or somebody else will sit down and play. But statistically, not everybody's going to win. Most of them are going to lose, and they're going to add to our cash pile. And even if they do win, I'm still winning here. The only way that they can win is if it's over 13, and if it's over 13 and we're aiming for 15, that means the next time I'm going to sell $14 calls. And if the 14 guy wins, that means I'm closer to my goal of 15. And if the 15 guy wins, I'm getting to 16. And I have 2 open slots. It cannot hurt me to the upside. Now, SQQQ, we have the 70s, but that's, you have to, in this case, you always want to go, it's a 3 times inverse ETF. So if the NASDAQ drops 20%, this will go up 60%. So very simply, all you do is take the current price, 67.36, times 1.6, that's up 60%, 107.76. So to get the 115, we're aiming on a 20% drop, we're covered to 107.76, which is $37. And then how many things do we have? We have 7, so it's 700 times 37 is a big number, is 25,900 bucks. That's how much the spread will go up to if the NASDAQ drops 20%. So meanwhile, we're at net, so I'm sorry, like 26,000 bucks. So now you just take these numbers, 16,870 minus 9,438 minus 1,300 is 61.32. So it's 29. So we have about $23,000 of net upside here. Again, we sell the short calls in March. So in December, we sold the short calls. We collected $1,700, which is great, off a net $8,000 spread. Because if we do this consistently until 2028, we're going to collect, let's say, 6 more times, about $10,000, $12,000. So we're going to collect more money than the spread cost. Free. It's free. It's free insurance. It's free it's free really $25,000 worth of insurance at the moment. And that's how we hedged. It's not free immediately, but it's free in that we have an extremely clear path, knowing our math, understanding the game, understanding the rules, understanding the statistics. We have a very, very clear path to winning. Okay? It's like lending money at a bank, right? You go, it's not like lending money at a bank. Let's say you lend money to your neighbor and you lend him $1,000 and he says he's going to pay you back 10% interest. So you're giving him $1,000, he's going to pay you back $1,100. That's the game. What's your risk? Your risk is he doesn't pay you back. So that's when it depends. And just like you're evaluating stock, you have to evaluate your neighbor, how good he is, how consistent he is. Is he borrowing the money because he's about to go bankrupt, or is he borrowing the money because his kid fell off the bike and he had to go to the hospital and he didn't have $1,000 on him? What's the reason he's borrowing the money? If he's not in financial trouble and he just happens to need $1,000 at the moment, then why not, right? He's good for it. If he is in deep financial trouble, you have to really think about what, is he likely to pay you back, so on and so forth. That's what these stocks are. Do you trust them in bad financial times? And that's why I love these steady, blue chip, dependable kind of plays, because they're the reliable neighbor. They just, you're just lending a little bit of money for a while. And that's what these positions are, right? We're lending the money. We expect the math to work out. We expect the statistics to work out, and we're going to get our returns. That's what this whole game is. And that's why it's so consistent, and that's why it's so profitable, because it's a great game to play. It's set up entirely in your favor. You just need to learn how to do it. And here's Valet. They blasted back into the money, so this turned into a winning trade, and we are beyond thrilled with this one. And so we basically cashed that out, I think, entirely, just because we're so happy just to be even on that one. We're like out of it now. I think that's what I did with it. Let's just cash that out, and we may as well cash out the whole thing. Yep, that's what we did. Because this is thrilling, 1406. And let's see how they did today. Ooh, 1417. So good. No trouble cashing out. But you see, it's kind of stopping. You have to say when is enough. You have to see something go up and say, okay, you know what? We're lucky we got back to that. It's not worth risking it now. We were down significantly on that position. Now we won. Take it, move on. And not only move on, but learn the lesson that even at this insane 7.4 times forward earnings, it was a tricky play for us. We got really hurt on it at the beginning because of this. We got really slammed because we took this a lot earlier in the year. We got slammed over here, and it was a real slow recovery. And we only just now right into the close of the position where we, in January, we expected it to be right about $14, $15. We didn't expect it to take all the way until January. It's been torture for us on this position. So we learned a lesson. We learned to play Valet more conservatively next time. In fact, the secondary position we took, we're let's go all the way back up again. The secondary position we took, see all the newer stuff from 11.8, right? This was part of our old position. We already brought back the short calls, tremendous profit, obviously, because the short calls were worthless. We brought back the short calls, but we had the $12 calls that we bought for $3. So we needed 15 plus to get even. But instead, what we did is this. and that's now made us money. And not a lot, 65 minus 28 is 35 minus 38. So we're barely even overall, but barely even versus having been down at one point like $5,000 is a huge victory. So at this point now, why would I risk it? These are, this is a January expiration, this one, and it was messy to unwind. We sold these other calls, we did some stuff. So it's messy to unwind. So we decided that one's 26 also. So it's easy to just take it off the table. If we decide to play it, we'll play it just completely differently. But for now, it's like, let's cash it out, because the cash is 11 minus 5 is 6, minus 24 is 36, minus 3 is $500. We're just boom, done with it. It's not worth leaving it on because we could easily go back into the negative. But getting to a profit from what the mess we had before is amazing. And that, by the way, that's our worst position. Every other one is a winner. And you know what's not on here? There's no frickin', there's no Magnificent Seven stocks on here. There's no risky stocks on here. There's no story stocks on here. We just go with like undervalued basic little plays that we can control, and we can make money selling short calls on if we can. Or, these bull call spreads, these are bets that somebody's really undervalued. We're right every single time. These are bets, same thing actually. These are ones people are undervalued. We're right on all of them. These are ones where we look to turn them into income plays. And every single one is a winner except Ballet, which we're getting out even. And that's the worst stock in our portfolio, even. That's how you play this game. And by the way, yeah, we do have much better performance in the long-term portfolio. In the short-term portfolio is a hedge. It's not meant to perform well, but it does. But we have much better performance in the long-term portfolio, in the money talk portfolio, because those are for people who have margin and can afford to take the risks and so on and so forth. Okay, but this is a $700 a month portfolio. When you're building your portfolio, when you're starting out investing and you have a small amount to invest, you don't risk anything. If you do this consistently, we're already proving it out. If you do this consistently for 10 years, we're turning $700 a month into $1 million in 10 years of investing. And if that's not enough for you, then do go to a casino and do put all your money on the roulette wheel and just get it over with. You're either going to win, which is almost extremely unlikely, or you're going to lose, but at least then you can say, okay, I shouldn't be an investor. Because if you can't be satisfied making these kind of returns on a consistent basis where you will build your wealth, and in 10 years out from now, and look, I'm sorry if you're 80 years old and just starting to invest. I mean, you started too late. But if you're 60 even, 10 years from now, you could be a millionaire with very small initial investment. That's got to make you happy. If you can't be happy with that, you have bigger troubles than whether or not you've got the right accounts, and you have the right stocks in your accounts. But if you're younger, if you're not 70, and you have time to invest, you start out conservatively building this wealth, and when you get to $500,000, $1 million, then you can take 10% of your money and put it into a risky portfolio. And if that risky portfolio performs the way our portfolios perform, you will start doubling, tripling your rate of returns just from that little money that you put in the other ones, right? Because if we're making 60%, let's say you have $500,000, right? Let's say you build up to $500,000. We're only at 100,000. We're at 90. So this is 60% a year for this is 40 months. So it's just over 3 years we've been doing this. It's 60% a year compounding. And we're at $90,000. And in 40 months, it's 28,000 has been put in. So the profit is $60,000 basically. Well, obviously it's 200%, right? So that's how it works. So we put in $28,000. We're up 200%. We're at $90,000. In the way we're going now, well, there's a thing up here. The way we're going now, the pace we're at now, if we keep it up in 4.6 years. So if you start right now at 90,000 bucks, in 4.6 years from today, we will be at $1 million. So by 2030, we'll hit $1 million. After starting 3 years ago in 2022. So that's what I'm talking about, starting up. Okay, we started with a reasonable. We started with $700 is what we started with. The next month we put in another $700. Every month we put in $700 more dollars. So we've done that 41 times so far. So I'm sorry, what I was saying. So if you have $500,000 in this portfolio, at that point, you can take 50,000 bucks. I wouldn't even take 100. I would take 50, and your $450,000 $450,000 times, that's not even 450, 450, oh, 1, 2, 3, times 0.6 is going to make $270,000 the next year. That's at 60% that we've been going, right? But your $50,000, if it does what the long-term portfolio is doing, which is like 100%, you're going to make $50,000 more dollars, right? So then instead of whatever the previous transaction was, it's going to show me the thing. Yeah. So 270. So you'll suddenly have $100,000, and the next year you'll make another $100,000 if it's risky and you're doing well, right? And that's how you're going to start doubling that up. So in a couple of years, you'll be doubling this 270 a year. But still, that's risky. You could lose that. If the market turns south on you, if things don't go well, you'll lose that money. That's why you only take a little bit of it, because 270 is a lot of money to make from 450. You don't need to make more money than that, especially when the way we're doing it here is so conservative and has such a high chance of succeeding. It's for fun money that you take that you put into these portfolios. And yes, we have a $500,000 long-term portfolio. That is fun money for for our premium members. Most of them are quite well off. This is their fun money portfolio. Don't mix it up, and don't be like, I should be doing that. It's like if you're a rock climber, right? And you climb up the little basic rock wall, the gym and whatever, and you say, oh, that's great. But then you see the professional rock climbers hanging by their fingers without any ropes, and you go, I should be doing that. It's like, no, you shouldn't. You're not that guy. You could want to be that guy. You could want to be Warren Buffett. Do you know Warren Buffett took $5 billion and bet in 2009? He took $5 billion and made a bet that the S&P would be higher than where it was then in 5 years. And somebody took the opposite bet, and he doubled his money because the S&P didn't stay down. That was his entire bet. It was a proposition bet $5 billion, and he took one side, and obviously not one guy, but a bunch of guys took the other side because they believed the S&P would be lower in 5 years. And he put his foot down. So did I. I made the same bet, but no, I didn't make the same money bet. But I said the same thing at the time in 2010, and I didn't get the notoriety he did, but he got $5 billion. But yeah, just logically, the S&P was not going to be lower than it was at the time because it was a ridiculous set of circumstances that caused the S&P to go down. That's a risky bet. He could have lost $5 billion, but you know what? He can afford to lose $5 billion. And $5 billion wasn't nothing to Warren Buffett. It was a significant piece of Berkshire Hathaway's money, but he could afford to lose it, because if he did lose it, he had other conservative plays that were going to make up for it. And that's the point. That's why these, a long-term portfolio or the money to our portfolio, these are risky strategies that you have to work hard. If you want to make 100% instead of 60%, you got to work a lot harder. Once you get past 60%, you've got to be risking money somewhere. But if I can conservatively make, and by the way, we were never looking to make 60%. We were trying to make 10%, and it just happens that we're in a really good environment for making money. But if you can just conservatively make 10, 20% a year and compound it consistently, you are Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett made 16% a year on the average but he did it for 50 years. And you compound 16% for 50 years, and you're going to become a multi-billionaire. That's what this does. That's what this portfolio is for. Slow, steady compounding of returns by sensibly investing in things that are highly unlikely to lose money. That's what this is about. So let's see, any more questions? Wow, all these are questions. Okay, SK says, how do you decide which short-term puts and calls to sell for income plays? Targeting. We have a value that we believe is correct, so we sell around the value that we believe is correct. When the stock takes off, selling short-term calls seems to cost a lot. What? For example, WDC short calls. What do you mean costs a lot? We get a lot. We sell the calls, we collect a lot of money, they have a lot of premium. That's the whole point. We're getting paid a lot to sell the short call. Buying the short calls is for idiots. Selling them to the idiots, that's our game. What made you get into ARCC? It's a fairly new trade. It was just a good bargain. We were looking for earnings plays. Oh, they have earnings coming up, right? They have earnings coming up, and we thought it was a good time to get in. We thought the value was there, and so we jumped on it. We're always looking, but it's only once in a while that something pops up on our radar that we feel we should get it. All right, guys, there you go. I think we've covered everything. Oh, and it's 3 o'clock on the dot. That makes it a perfect webinar. So I will close it here. We started on time. We're finishing on time. Everybody have a fabulous week, and please, continue asking questions in the chat. That's when we have time to answer the biggies. All right. So thanks for coming, everybody, and I'll see you all next week.